What's up? What's poppin'? It's your boy C.A. Victor, the author of the Conscious Pugilist Anthology, Volume 1, A True Power Hides in Plain Sight. This is my ring, my arena. This is where we address little topics on the ego and on the witness consciousness, your true self. That's what my book is about. Bunch of stories. It's hot. Go cop it on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles. What I'm going to talk about today is I want to address the title one more time. Let's get right into it. Let's see what.
The title. The title, everybody gets scared of the title until I tell them, like, no, read the bottom. It's a hood book. It's not difficult.
It's not a difficult read. Don't be scared of the title. She's right. The title was intended to spawn curiosity amongst people who may see it. I understood the pugilist was not, it's not an everyday word. It's not in everybody's vocabulary, but that's kind of the point. I wanted something that was going to be different, that was going to stand out in the marketplace. And I know unless you're a boxer, a professional boxer, you're not going to know what that word means. And then you put consciousness to it, and it seems super intellectual. And it's not a super intellectual book, but in some ways it is very much an intellectual book. I wouldn't say it's hood because it does have some hood elements to it. So I could see why she would say that, Tina would say that. I would say it's more hip hop, the book. You know what I mean? I'm a hip hop guy. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I'm actually the same age hip hop is. So I literally grew up with hip hop. And I definitely look at this book as like my first album. The same way Nas wrote a Illmatic, the same way Jay-Z wrote a Reasonable Doubt, Conscious Pugilist is that for me. Rakim Paid in Full, Criminal Minded, Straight Outta Compton, the list goes on and on and on. This is like that for me. I approached it like if I was doing my first album. Every chapter is like a song. It tells a different story. And in the beginning, there's definitely poems, raps, however you want to call it, spoken word. It's my own particular style. And nothing could be more hip hop than that. That's why I say this book, you've never read nothing like it ever a day in your life. So just think hip hop. What is hip hop? We turn something cool. We make it our own. It's originality. I come back in the days when hip hop music, you had to be original. So I'm not a hip hop fan. I am hip hop. And I mean that in every sense of the word. My style, the way I walk, the way I talk, yes, I'm versatile. I could go into any room and operate flawlessly. Trust me when I tell you that. But at the end of the day, man, that's what's in my soul. That's what I grew up with. So being original is very important to me. I may wear the same clothes somebody else wear, but I might wear it a little bit different. I'm gonna put my own swag, my own spin to it. So when I wrote a book, I said I'm gonna put my own style to it. I'm gonna put my own little spin to it. And that's what I did. So I wouldn't say it's super intellectual. I wouldn't say that it's hood. I wouldn't say it's nothing. It's just something that represents my own brand of creativity, which is what hip hop is to me. And it's New York City. New York City, the boroughs is all through it. That's a fact. I would say New York City is the star of the whole book, to be honest with you, because I go in timelines and I change up the slang, I change up the vocabulary, I change up the different types of cultures in it. It's a little bit of everything. And I think I've represented New York well in that. So I hope that addresses that. Let's get to the next thing.
It's perfect, very well written, very simple. Like everybody could read it. Truly, everybody can read it. Yes. And also, but it's on the level of good where people put it next to Power and Art of War. Okay. And those are two books you have to read in prison.
It's crazy that she said that, right? Because I like Art of War. I haven't written it since I was younger. 48 Laws of Power came about a little bit later. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of that book because it could be helpful. It's not to say I haven't learned anything from it. And if you can learn anything from a book, it's a good thing. So it could definitely be helpful, if for anything, to know how other people are trying to move. You know what I mean? So any knowledge is good knowledge. But I just feel like it teaches a brand of manipulation that I'm not crazy about. Um, I don't belong to any religion. I'm not a super religious person. I don't mind going to a mosque, a church, or anything like that. Anything that's positive, I'm with and I can learn from. I just feel like you could get a better understanding of how to move in this world and be successful if you pick up the Quran or if you pick up the Bible. I just feel like if you learn the right lessons in those books, you'll be better off than if you read The Art of War or 48 Laws of Power, if you're looking to change your life. That's how I feel. Now, I'm not saying don't read those books, because it's important to know what other people are reading so you know what game plan and what strategies they trying to put against you or others that you may know. You got to understand how everybody's moving. So I'm never going to tell you to just read one thing and not the counter to it. You got to know both. You know what I mean? You got to be like a Jedi and a Sith Lord out here. You know what I mean? You got to know the good side. You got to know the dark side, I believe. Um, just so that you could always, just so you could always stay on point. So that's one thing there. Oh, and the other thing, when she said it's a book that people in prison would read, I definitely think people in prison would definitely find my book entertaining. But I don't think you have to be in prison, because I also think you could be in prison without being in prison. Your mind could be in prison and your soul could be in jail or locked up. I like that. Your mind is in prison. Your mind could be in prison and your soul could be locked up in jail and they won't let you out. Shout out to Akon. But nah, facts, man. Like you know, people think you're only imprisoned if you're physically there. But just think about a movie like The Matrix, right? Those people was imprisoned in their own body because they was trapped inside the matrix in a dreamlike state. And a lot of times now we say that we in a simulation or in the matrix, right? So it's the same thing. If you out here sleeping, you don't know what the hell's going on, or you've been what I call programmed through social media, through TV shows, through these so-called influencers, through politicians, whoever, whatever it may be, to me, you still locked up. Your mind is in prison. And if your mind is in prison, your soul could be locked up. So I'm gonna leave that at that. So just those two quick things just to think about real quick. Let's get to the next thing.
Once you do time, those are two books requested.
Let's fast forward just a little bit.
Available. So I read it with him, and a person that went to fifth grade could read it. Absolutely. Painful this is happening. Like, it was just, I read it twice.
Read it twice. It is the type of book you could read 2 or 3 times.
Read it because it's speaking to people on a deeper level. Like, how do you know that? How do you know that shit?
How do I know that shit? I've been around. I've been in many different circles. I grew up from the bottom, you know, food stamps, holes in my shoes. I always talk about me walking in holes with my shoes, because if you didn't grow up poor and your mother couldn't buy, this is before Jordans and all of that type of stuff. If your mother couldn't afford to buy you more than one pair of sneakers, maybe for the school year, at least definitely for the first 6 months. And back then we used to go outside and play. I know that's something that people don't really do too much no more, but we used to have a thing that was called go outside and play. That's where you run, you race, you jump fences, you play football, you play basketball, and you went to school and you did all of that. If you couldn't afford more than one pair of shoes, you did all of that in one pair of sneakers that you had. At some point, you get a hole at the bottom of that shoe. And I remember having to go to school with holes in the bottom of my shoes, and it would rain. And I remember my socks getting wet. I remember that. And from as old as I got to where as I could work or do whatever I had to do, I was always about my money after that. And in doing that, in studying, and thank God, God blessed me with some sense. I was able to put myself in different rooms, situations, walk amongst people from all different walks of life. And it really taught me a lot, seen a lot. I grew up in New York when it was crazy and grimy. So we had a thing called being thorough, having knowledge of self. You had to be on point. You had to see everything, you had to be aware of everything. So, being able to put myself in these different environments, well, me being brought up in all these different environments, and then as I got older, being able to be in different environments and leadership positions and creative rooms and business where, deals were being made that affected people's lives. I'm taking some of those stories and I'm flipping it, and I'm getting creative with it. I'm putting it in bars and rhymes, and I'm putting it into different characters. That's what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, yeah, that's what it's about. That's why you got a book that's basically, about being thorough. Saying that you balancing your ego and, your witness consciousness is really just about being thorough. That's really what it's about being on point. If I had to say what this book was about, I would say it's about being on point, period.
Oh my God.
And it's for anybody who want to be on point or is on point.
After you get through and you quoted Jay-Z, so good. And I tell people too, like, he's not a boxer. But I said, you wrapped it around just enough. But also, the first, like you said, the first like
Not a professional boxer, but I'm a fighter. I'm out here fighting. I always say that I'm not a writer with a W. I'm a writer with a R. Righther. Writer. We fighting for what's right out here.
It was really telling people, inspiring people, speaking to people, and then after that were the stories. Yes, are definitely yes. Are they all real?
That's why I clipped the first part of the interview, kind of like a cliffhanger to answer that question. But it is a question I get answered a lot. And I tell people, well, you'll see how I answer the question when I put out the rest of the interview. But I'll tell you this, one of my favorite verses is by Prodigy in that song called I Shot Ya. That song by LL Cool J, the remix to it. I tell people, go listen to that verse. I Shot You by LL Cool J. All the verses is crazy, don't get me wrong. Told you I'm a hip hop guy. All the verses, everybody did their thing. At the time in New York City, that was the biggest song on the street. People still doing verses to the instrumental of that. The beat was crazy. LL Cool J came back. Hot, Fat Joe, Foxy, Keith Murray, one of the most underrated spitters of our time. So unorthodox, like, I'm here to make $1 out of 15 cents and let my balls hanging like I'm on toilet taking a shit. My style is all that. But anyway, but Prodigy's verse on there, not to say he had the best verse, it's gonna sound a little contradiction. It's contradictory. Not saying he had the best verse on there. I'm not saying his, because I've said different times I like Keith Murray verse a lot too. But that verse is one of my favorite verses that Prodigy did. So just check that out. Listen to that when you think about, is it real? Just think about that verse right there. All right, that's all I got for y'all today. The Conscious Pugilist, C.A. Victor. I am intellectual property of the Most High, and I just want all of y'all to stay fly. That's it. Peace.